accepting all the young leaders into the room, which are joining.
And His Excellency, Mr. Hassan is already online?
He's sharing a video message, and I will be in charge of sharing it whenever you introduce.
All right, perfect. Okay, shall we go on?
Please.
All right. Good afternoon to dear participants or distinguished panelists. For UNITAR is a real pleasure and an honor to inaugurate today a program for strengthening youth engagement with Sustainable Development Goals and the Agenda 2030. Our partners, the Generation Amazing from Qatar, the Department of Mission of Qatar in New York, and the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, Ms. Daniela Abbas. The two excellencies, the permanent representatives are with us. Also, we have the President of His Excellency, Mr. Hassan Al-Tawadi, who is the chairman of the 2022 FIFA World Cup of Qatar, is Secretary General of the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy. So it's a very important day for us in the United Nations and UNITAR, in particular because we have two, I wanted to take the liberty to say two Spartan women's fighting for sport and sustainable development in the United Nations, which just recently achieved a landmark resolution in the General Assembly. Is Her Excellency Alia Al-Thani, the permanent representative of Qatar in New York. Her Excellency Isabel Pico from Monaco to the United Nations. And they teamed together following the report of the Secretary General prepared by the Office of Daniela Abbas, the Director of Sustainable Inclusion in the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. In this session this morning, we have a legend of the football.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, Mr. John Barnes has just joined us just recently. So we hope to have a very engagement session. This program is divided in three particular sessions. One today, inauguration, and we are going to talk about development. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about sport, the 15, and on the 16th, we're going to have a course on negotiation skills and multilateral negotiations in the United Nations, and we will have a set of panelists for that. We have a very renowned doctor in medicine and sport for tomorrow, Dr. John Metzel, so hopefully we will have a very engagement sessions, the 14, the 15, and the 16. The program also encompasses the objective is to these young participants from Qatar, these young women and boys that are taking part of these sessions, to giving them enough tools to be able to amplify and to deliver the importance of ports in peace, security, and development. So the most important goal for us is that they understand the framework in which their work is going to be around, and how important is the theme of sports and development as well, and peace and security. We are crafted this program around these themes, and I invite all of them to make comments, to participate, to engage, to let us know what else they may need. It's a very gender balanced group, and I wanted to congratulate Qatar for that. For our partnership with Generation Amazing, we have been working a couple of years back in different aspects of capacity building and training and development. And we are more than proud to say that has become a pillar for us in New York, these training courses with the Generation Amazing, and also the support of the Permission of Qatar to UNITAR. With these just general remarks, I will very, very honor and pleased if the two co-chairs of the group of expert sport in New York can give us some opening remarks And at this point, I would like to yield to Her Excellency Ali Al Thani, the permanent representative of Qatar in New York to the United Nations, if he can enlighten us about this process of the peace and sport in the United Nations. Ambassador, thank you very much for being with us, for your time, for your support. And I hope we will continue this collaboration. And I yield to you for your kind message.
Thank you so much, my dear friend Marco. Good morning, everyone. I'm very delighted, of course, to take part in this timely event and to address all of you at this course on strengthening youth engagement with SDGs and the 2030 Agenda, jointly organized with Generation Amazing and UNITAR for our Generation Amazing Young Leaders. I would like to thank all distinguished speakers, of course, for bringing their expertise and experience around the table and willingness to engage in fruitful, constructive, and open exchanges with Generation Amazing young youth advocates. It's exactly 2 years the world will gather for the 2022 FIFA World Cup to be held in Qatar, the first FIFA World Cup to be hosted in the Middle East and the Arab world. This World Cup has a unique characteristics. It's not only about the games, but about harnessing the power of football for social, human, economic, environmental development in the short and in the long term. Qatar's 2022 World Cup Sustainability Strategy, drafted by the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy, which is Qatar's lead government entity responsible for the coordination and delivery of the infrastructure, services, and legacy programs, includes a number of key objectives. One of the objectives is to empower young people in the region through football programs. Generation Amazing was established to deliver on this objective. It uses football for development initiatives to address social issues through involvement of young people in countries with identified needs and in line with the SDGs. The program includes construction of community football pitches and delivery of football for development training, as well as the promotion of sustainable behavior among young people in Qatar and across the region. Of course, Generation Amazing has established a number of remarkable and innovative programs. The Generation Amazing Youth Advocates is one of them. It aims to identifying and empowering individuals to represent and uphold Generation Amazing values of global citizenship through football development. Youth advocates are not only considered the driving force for positive change, but also key factor in finding solutions to social issues. This course, of course, was specifically tailored to provide our youth advocates with an in-depth understanding of the 2030 Agenda, the enabling role sports play in its implementation, and the key importance of youth engagement to successful implementation of the 2030 Agenda and the Paris Agreement on climate change. At the end, I hope our youth advocates will understand clearly sports' ability to inspire, bring hope, and transform humanity by uniting us to work together, and also on how they can contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals and to the goals of the Paris Agreement. I would like to highlight, of course, the work of the UN Group of Friends on Sports for Development and Peace, which I proudly co-chair with my dear colleague and friend Ambassador Isabel Pico of Monaco. Of course, this group has recently worked on the adoption of General Assembly resolution on sport as an enabler of sustainable development, which I'm sure my dear friend and colleague Ambassador Isabel will talk about briefly to you, dear young advocates. Thank you again, Marco. Thanks to Generation Amazing for this amazing collaboration. And we look forward for our young advocates to benefit from this course. And I thank you again.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your kind words and for your support. I am 100% sure that the young generation of Qataris diplomats and also the Generation Amazing fellows will take in due consideration the message that you have been given to us. I would like now to yield the floor to Her Excellency, Madame Isabel Picot, the permanent representative of Monaco. He is also chair of this group of friends with the permanent representative representative of Qatar. As I said, they are doing an amazing job in the United Nations. This resolution that Ambassador Al-Thani just mentioned now got almost 100 co-sponsorships in the General Assembly, and it's become a landmark for promoting sport sustainable development. Ambassador Pico, I am honored and pleased to give you the floor for your kind message.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be part of that event between Generation Amazing and UNITAR. So dear young leaders, UN colleagues at UNITAR and DESA, and the football legend John Barnes, you will excuse Alia and I because she's PSG and I am a Monaco Football Club. So, but you know, we love soccer. This is the important thing, and we know the power of football, especially in Europe. So in less than 2 years, Qatar will be the host of one of the most watched mega sport event, FIFA 2022. So, you know, it has a great power. Your country will be broadcasted around the world, and it's an opportunity that nobody can let pass. So as my dear colleague Alia just mentioned, we just adopted last week the biennial resolution on sport as an enabler of sustainable development. And this resolution takes its roots into what has been done in 2015. And this is the adoption of the political declaration and the sustainable development goal. So even if sport is not mentioned in any of the SDGs, we have managed to have sport as an enabler of sustainable development mentioned into the political declaration. This has really been a breakthrough. I don't know how much you know about sport and how it came to the UN agenda in the General Assembly, but this is thanks to the Egyptian delegation back in 1993. It was a 48th session. It was the first one that Monaco co-sponsored as a new member of the United Nations. And it was about the item about sport and the power of sport and the Olympic ideals. So, you know, a lot of progress has been made, and because challenges are bigger, but sports unites us and don't divide us. As it is mentioned in the resolution adopted this year again, it's the principle of the autonomy of sport is very important. So we have that biannual resolution every other year, but we also have an international day, which is on the 6th of April, celebrated every year. And this has been adopted in 2013. So with those two big milestone, we also rely on other entities of the UN and UNESCO as through the group of the Minister of Sport adopted the Kazan Plan of Action in 2017, which really puts the global framework reference for physical education, physical activity and sport, and to better coordinate and to use the immense potential of sport for development and peace. So also the Department of Global Communication, because I don't want to develop too much what Daniela Bas, Director of Inclusive Social Development, will do afterwards. But since 2017, the Department for Global Communication, the Outreach Division Special Events, has taken the role of UN Special Focal Point on communication events around global sport opportunities. So they work with DESA and they take every opportunity to really focus on what unites us and the power of, it's a common language sport. You know, everybody follows the same rules when we play a game, whichever it is. And this is really putting all of us in an equal standpoint. So I can't, because this year is so complicated for all of us. You know, in the spring, after UNDESA had issued their policy brief on the impact of COVID-19 on sport, physical activity, and well-being, and its effects on social development, the group of friends in Qatar and Monaco prepared a joint statement in support of that policy brief. And we were very pleased to see a strong reaction from our colleagues, member states at the UN General Assembly. And it was adopted it was sent to DESA, because this was a voluntary commitment, by 118 member states. So you can understand that among all the difficulties that we may have on the very difficult legal, political subjects that we deal with every day at the UN, sport is a moment where we can all unite around a common cause and around a very powerful message for the youth. So, as Ambassador Suazo mentioned before, and I had the pleasure of listening to His Excellency Hassan Al-Tawadi, the Secretary General of the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy last year, I believe, or the year before, when he came to the UN to present what Qatar is doing to make sure that it's not an event at a moment in time, but it will involve all the region and it will benefit to many people. So I do believe that your role as a generation amazing, and you certainly didn't choose an easy game, because you have to live to expectations that your NGO name is named after. So, but I believe that it cannot only be the work of governments, but the relation you will build and to make sure to support what is being done to reuse the infrastructure, all the innovation involved in the green economy, and the culture, the mixing of people. Hopefully, so many people will travel to Qatar from around the world to be there and sharing those unique moments that only, I think there are two mega events that really stand out globally, and this is the FIFA World Cup and the Olympic Games. So I think it's an exceptional opportunity, and I do believe that you will engage more with the Special Envoy on youth, and we will always be there to answer your questions. So, anytime if you want to reach out to my team, if you want some advice, and the Peace and Sport organization in Monaco has been also developing very good programs. They work in post-conflict situations. So it's a very, very satisfactory positions that we have, because every time that we do something with a foundation, I've worked with Fundación Real Madrid and with Intercampus. It's always a positive attitudes, and soccer is something that unites us. Even if we stand beyond a flag and we cheer for our teams, it's also the love of the game, and the great fans will be those that support even if there is a nice action on the field. So as I said, you have a big responsibility to make sure that you connect through the different networks with the youth around the world. We are there to assist you. And most of all, what is the most important thing is to share emotion and to believe truly that sport brings us together. We have our common humanity. The cultures are adds-on to what we have to share. It can only be positive. So with that, I want to wish you a good 3 days, and congratulations, and looking forward to further engage with you. Anytime if you want to have a full historical paper on what sport has been doing and evolving at the UN for a little more than 2 decades, we will be there to help you. Thank you, and have a good work.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for those inspiring messages. I see that you recall us and the times we are living now. And it's true, the pandemic has have an impact, especially in the young generations, because they has been missing just the normal life that they are used to, going to the campuses, going to do the sport, and being locked down. It's not easy for a young person in these days. We, all men and middle-aged people, can adjust. But for young people, is take a toll, in particular where their environment is around education and the campus, campground and things like that. So thank you for reminding us. Hopefully there is a hope, and we are almost at the end of the tunnel. We hear those news about vaccines being developed and trying to cope again with the new realities. Of course, not will be the same, but for when the World Cup comes up, I think we will be more in the normal than in the situation we are today. The United Nations is there to assist and support the Economic and Social Affairs Department, the specialized agencies, and that's very important. You mentioned a word that is always called my attention when you say soccer. For us, is football. So let's play football instead of soccer. This is one thing. Now I am very honored and very pleased to yield the floor to His Excellency Hassam Al-Tawadi, Chairman of the 2022 World Foot Cup of Qatar, who is the Secretary General, as we mentioned before, of the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy, who is the organization responsible for coordinating among public and private entities to ensure that the infrastructure and development project are deliveries in readiness for the 2022 World Cup. I have the privilege, thanks to Ambassador Al-Thani, to see all the models of the stadiums that has been built for this. And I am 100% sure that John will be jealous on the stadiums he used to play for the stadiums that Qatar and the infrastructure Qatar is developing for the World Cup. So, Excellency, I yield the floor for your message today.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I am very proud to have our Generation Amazing youth advocates participating in this workshop with UNITAR. As youth advocates, you represent the values and vision for the future of Generation Amazing. As young leaders in your communities, we are counting on your talent, intelligence, enthusiasm, and positive energy to contribute towards creating a legacy that begins ahead of 2022 and, more importantly, continues for decades to come. Sports' power to inspire and transform should not be underestimated. And it is critical that its power is harnessed as a vehicle for social progress and sustainable development in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda. And through your journey with us, we aim to provide you with the tools to make a difference in your communities. As leaders of the future of your communities, your universities, your schools, you will encounter different challenges on your journey. Your role as youth advocates is to understand how and why sports offers a unique way to deal with those challenges and to spread the powerful message of sport for development within Qatar and across the world. You carry with you a message for everyone else, and especially for the future generations, with regard to the limitless power of sports and its contribution to the betterment of people's lives. I would like to thank Her Excellency Sheikh Ali Al-Thani, the Permanent Representative of Qatar at the United Nations, and her team, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for helping us to make this workshop possible. I would also like to provide a special thanks to His Excellency Marco Suazo of UNITAR and his team for designing this impactful training course for our youth advocates. And finally, thank you to our fantastic Generation Amazing youth advocates for being part of our mission to inspire youth across the world and create sustainable development within communities through the beautiful game of football. I wish you all the best on this exciting journey, and I look forward to hearing about your learnings and progress in the very near future.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for those kind words to us, and in particular for recognizing the importance of the young leaders in the future. Actually, when I normally participate with the training sessions and capacity building in the United Nations to the young diplomats, I always said that the future belongs to them. We are just transmitting the best knowledge, the best institutional memory that we have, enabling them to deliver and to live in a more better world. And we hope that giving them that opportunity, and this is as the message that His Excellency delivered to these young participants for Generation Amazing, may I say advocates today and students, that they will deliver this message for the future generations also. So thank you once again for that participation. Now we're going to hear from a legend of football, Mr. John Barnes, who play in Liverpool, who play in Newcastle. He goes to championships in there. It's not an easy task. He's a very accomplished athlete. I as well been a fan. I played soccer or football myself, I correct it now. And I know how the adrenaline and the drills when you are in a soccer field, on a football field, plays among us. John, I am very honored and very pleased that you are with us today and supporting Generation Amazing and football. And please, I yield to you humbly to give us some keynote remarks and thought about football and sport in general.
Thank you very much. It just brought back memories seeing His Excellency Hassan Al-Thawadi give his address, because I first met him in 2010 in the World Cup in South Africa when I was there working for Supersport. And in Michelangelo Hotel in Mandela Square, we had quite a few evenings having coffee because he's a Liverpool fan and talking about the power that football has, how much he loves football, how much people in Qatar love football, and of course, the power that it can actually do to affect change. I then came across him once again when I was part of the England World Cup bid, which we failed at, that Germany won. And of course, at the same time, for the World Cup 2022, Qatar were up against some other nations to try and secure that. So I was actually in Zurich, not with my Liverpool kit on, not with my as an ambassador for Qatar 2022, but as a advocate for England getting the World Cup in 2016. And I went to the presentations, all of the presentations, and the one that blew me away more, as much as we weren't against Qatar because we were 2018, Qatar were 2022, the presentation that I saw from Qatar was incredible. The integrity it showed, the passion, the love of football, and more importantly, the legacy that it would actually leave behind. And that is what Generation Amazing is all about, the legacy. If anybody knows football, the World Cup first came about in 1930, and every 4 years since then, they've had a World Cup in places all over the world, far-flung South America, and Europe mainly, then of course, Johannesburg 2010, before that South Korea. And there was always a perception that the World Cup had to be in South America or Europe, as it always was, because the perception was in other places, they aren't as passionate about football. They wouldn't be able to organize a World Cup tournament until Korea 2002, and then of course, South Africa 2010. But when I saw that presentation from Qatar and speaking to Mr. Al-Thawadi, Hassan Al-Thawadi, and then working in Qatar for beIN Sports and seeing the passion that people have there and how much they love football, the ability to put it on, for me, which is the most important thing, gave me so much pride. Even at that time, when we didn't win the World Cup, Germany won the World Cup, but I cheered as loudly as Hassan Al-Thawadi did when Qatar actually won the World Cup for 2022, because I'm a believer that football belongs to the world. So therefore, it should go to the world, not just to the elite. And then once I understood the things that were going to be put in place for the rest of the world from a legacy point of view, but every World Cup wants to leave a legacy. And that legacy that every World Cup so far has left has benefited, yes, a lot of the world, but probably equally as important, and from their perspective, it has benefited the host nation. So if you look at the Olympics in England and how that benefited England, the World Cup in '66, the World Cup in France, the World Cup in the USA in building stadiums, the legacy they normally leave behind is a legacy for themselves. the legacy that is Qatar 2022 through Generation Amazing and other projects that they have going on, the legacy it will leave. Yes, it will benefit Qatar. It'll benefit the region, not just Qatar, but all of the Middle East. More importantly, it'll benefit the world much more than it'll benefit Qatar. In terms of the infrastructure, the stadiums, the opportunities for young kids through Generation Amazing, educationally and vocationally, which is much more important than whether they can play football or not. Because 99.9% of children aren't going to be footballers. They may not even be interested in footballers. They may want to be teachers, doctors, politicians. But what Generation Amazing is giving these kids in Africa and a lot of these different disadvantaged places is giving them an opportunity to maximize their potential, to grow, to work, to eat, and to change the perception that the world has of them. The biggest benefit I think that Qatar will get from the World Cup, notwithstanding the legacy it's giving to the rest of the world, economically, socially, is the perception of the Middle East. Not just the perception of Qatar, because Qatar is representing that particular region. And we have known for too long the perception that people have in the West, where I live, of that part of the world. And I think the perception of Qatar will change. And it's difficult times in the last 2 or 3 years, as you can see, and with the pandemic. But that perception is changing when we can tell the truth about what's actually happening in that particular part of the world. And that is what I want to do. That is why I'm part of this project. And that is why I go to spread the word, because we know a lot of people would have a different perception based on the lies they have been told about what's actually happening there. I've seen it firsthand. I see the good that it actually does, not just with the stadium, but with the workers, the benefits, and more importantly, what it will leave for the rest of the world. Particularly when you look at those stadiums, which will then be transported all over the world to benefit, and not just the disadvantaged countries in Africa or wherever they may be, but also those communities. That is only a drop in the ocean as to what the legacy of the Qatar World Cup 22 will leave for the rest of the world. And that is the message I always spread. It is obvious that it's going to be a fantastic World Cup. The size of the country means that every nation will be able to get to watch other people play. You'll be able to get to see your country play from one stadium to the next in an hour and a half, at probably the most. And the infrastructure in Qatar, whereby it will be a fantastic World Cup, whereby if you have a big budget, if you have a small budget, you will be able to enjoy everything it has to offer. You'll be able to, you don't have to have a lot of money to be able to go and enjoy what. So that for me is obvious. And that is a no-brainer. That's not something that has to be proved. The lasting legacy is not that. The lasting legacy is not a fantastic World Cup in terms of, which it will be, in terms of the stadiums, in terms of the accommodation, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of people being able to have a good time if ever they want to. The legacy is what it actually gives the world for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years after the World Cup, which has nothing to do with what's happening in Qatar. It has to do with what was provided for those countries outside of Qatar because of the Qatar World Cup. And that is the message I always give. Forget about people telling me how hot it's going to be. I mean, in fact, I'm a little bit worried because I was there, not obviously not this November, but a few Decembers ago, and I needed a jumper because it's a little bit cold. So this whole idea that, it's going to be hot and, the air-conditioned stadium. So that's not an issue. For me, the most important thing is the perception we now have, not just of Qatar, but more importantly, once Generation Amazing will show what's going on around the world, we will view people in these disadvantaged countries differently. When we see that if they're provided an opportunity for a young child in Ghana, that if that opportunity is provided, they can maximize their potential and achieve the exact same end product as a young child in Germany, France, or England, because we assume that they're inferior based on what we've been wrongly told. So in terms of the legacy of, not only from the point of view of what it'll provide for them tangibly, makes a tangible difference to their lives, it's also good for the rest of the world, particularly the Western world, to look at these places and see people just like them who, under the right circumstances, can achieve everything they achieved. So for me, that is the real reason I'm involved. It's going to be a great World Cup. I'm looking forward to it. Of course, I want England to do well. But more importantly, I want the perception to change about different groups of people. And this is what the legacy that will be left behind because of Generation Amazing and Qatar 2022. Thank you.
John, thank you. Thank you very much. You touched on a very important point, which is a legacy. I have to be honest with you. This is the first time that I see an holistic approach, one sport event, the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup. This is the first time that I see a country devoting so much resources and so much energy in advocating for the role of sport and sustainable development. 12 months ago, a year ago, we also host an event in the UN Secretariat when we were in this new normal, and it was related to sports to combat extremism. And we work very closely with Generation Amazing and the permanent mission of Qatar. Now we are talking about sustainable development and youth preparedness or enabling them to continue this journey for the future generations. I saw on that day a year ago how much Generation Amazing was doing, bringing sports to very poor and small communities in Brazil, in certain countries in Africa, to enable those little kids at least to have a day of happiness, to play, to kick a ball and to run and to laugh. That's touched my heart on that day. And that's why we always respected, as Ambassador Pico said, this is not just governments, it's not only private sector or international, it's everybody, it's us. We have to change ourselves and to embrace these initiatives. And that's why we are, as UNITAR, has training and capacity building, very proud to work with Generation Amazing, because we see that legacy coming up. And I see that in the past, World Cup was a kind of marketing, was a kind of business, now it's different. Now sport is embraced in a different perspective. It's a human activity that has to enhance everyone's life. And this is the legacy, I guess, that this World Cup will give for the future of World Cups after Qatar. That when a country or a group of countries embrace in delivering this tournament, they will have to deliver something more. That marketing and business, they should have to leave a legacy behind. What is good for the people, for the human beings. So thank you, John, for addressing that issue, because it's a very important one. And I'm also very happy that you raised it, because this makes sense that what we are doing today. COVID-19 took us apart. It went at the home and we have to live, but it also shows us that we can work together. And that's why we are here, all of us. And these young students, these young boys and girls from Qatar, and seeing all these high representative of the government and the United Nations coming together, and legends like you, just for one cause, and is to embrace sport, sustainable development, and peace. So thank you very much for that, John. I really appreciate your message. Now we are going to hear also two remarkable women which are working in the United Nations, and they are delivering their life to these causes. One is the director for the Division of Inclusion and Social Development, Daniela Batz, which is with us. And then we also have Janjama Wiramaya. Sorry, my dear friend, Wayatra. So thank you, Ambassador Pico, for helping me out. That are devoted to these endeavors within the walls of the United Nations. So I welcome Daniela to brief us about the work of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs on these endeavors. And then we will listen from Janja for the youth representative, a special envoy for youth of the Secretary General. Daniela, welcome, and thank you very much for your time and for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, depending where we are, good evening. I would like to thank very much UNITAR for inviting us and through me talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, the work of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs in my division. That, well, it's not mine, the division I lead, the Division for Inclusive Social Development. I really want to thank also so much for their support and the amazing, allow me to use this word, since we're talking also about Generation Amazing collaboration that the United Nations have with the various entities of the UN, the different departments, including the Department of Global Communication, the various other stakeholders we interact with, and above all with the two co-chairs. And I'm referring to Their Excellencies, the ambassadors of Qatar and the Principality of Monaco, co-chairs of the group of friends on sport for development and peace in New York. Having said this, I would like to focus a little bit more and in a rather informal way, if you allow me, Marco, to the youth, because this is for youth, with the youth, and about youth, so with youth. So I'll try to use a terminology which maybe is a teeny bit more simple. I would like to congratulate the Generation Amazing about their engagement of youth in supporting inclusive human development in partnership with other beautiful organizations that they're working with, because they are putting into action one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which is the one of teaming up together and leading together with other leading organizations to cooperate in order to promote the well-being, in order to promote sustainability, and to promote economic and social inclusion and the well-being of people. So that's the SDG Sustainable Development Goal 17, which is the last one of the 17 goals. Now, for those youth who might not be aware, in 2015, the world realized that the planet is going towards the wrong trajectory. The population is growing in terms of the demographic, is also changing its age, getting much older. The planet hasn't never-ending resources, and we are detaching ourselves more and more from nature while we are part of the nature. And so we are polluting this planet, and the planet can't take it any longer. So we have to pay attention to change the trajectory the planet is going to by looking at climate change and what sport can do, for instance, in promoting good actions to change the trajectory, the pollution we're putting on the world. The pandemic that we are facing, COVID-19, is giving us the possibility to take time and think on how to change the trajectory the planet is going to. And so in building it back better by optimizing what back in 2015 member states decided as a roadmap to save the planet and promote the well-being of people, they decided that by the year 2030, the world together with an amazing support of youth has to reach 17 goals. That's why we call it the 2030 Agenda, and it's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This is for those youth who might wonder, what is this? What are these SDGs? Now, of these 17 goals, Generation Amazing is really doing the best to promote cooperation and partnerships, and that's SDG, as we call them, Sustainable Development Goal 17. But these youth are also promoting resilience, sustainable development, and peace, and safe human settlements. So here we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goal 16, as well as when it comes to human settlement and safety, we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goal 11, just to mention a few. So when it comes to meaningful youth engagement, well, this is something we at the United Nations are working on every day, as you know. And I would like to spend a few words about what we do now. The United Nations Department of Development, Economic and Social Affairs is also the focal point globally for the whole UN system on vulnerable groups of people. And these are youth and our older people and our indigenous peoples and our persons with disabilities. And we deal also with a very important issue such as the family, where all these generations meet. So when it comes to working together, I'm very happy that after me there will be Jayathma, who is the UN Special Envoy on Youth, because I'm a teeny bit older than Jayathma, but you see the various generations can work and talk together in promoting and in accelerating the 17 SDGs of the 2030 Agenda. The division I lead for the department, the Division for Inclusive and Social Development Inclusive, is focusing so much about these vulnerable groups I just mentioned in promoting and trying to assure that we all together, stakeholders, above all member states and the support we as UN can provide to member states and the other stakeholders, we are promoting the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goal 1, eradication of poverty. These groups I mentioned are really facing more challenges than others. And when it comes to youth, generations like mine that are older, we're living in a world that had different values, if you wish, and was safer in a way in terms of feeling secure, the security of a job, the secure. So there were nowadays, with this transformation of the world and the fourth industrial revolution, mainly technology and finance are playing a key role nowadays. The young people of today do not have that kind of safety net we people of my generation had. So this is even more important, therefore, for youth to be engaged and work together with the UN, member states, and other youth organizations, and also not necessarily young organizations, but groups that have, as you said earlier on, some memory of the past that could be used for the benefit of the present and the future. However, in rebuilding back better, if we think of this pandemic, we cannot rebuild as it was before, because otherwise what it was before was not sustainable. So we wouldn't honor the 17 goals. And in the preamble of the 2030 Agenda, it is said that, for instance, sport is an enabler of development and peace. So now we can talk about sport. Sport can help some of the SDGs, if not all of the SDGs, including those the division I lead is somehow, if you wish, responsible for, as I said, SDG 1, eradication of poverty. SDG 5, gender balance, boys and girls. Just to mention a few, SDG 8, employment. The sport can promote so much employment also by looking at the new technologies that are developing, digital technologies. And we have to make sure through youth and the role of sport by raising awareness also about the digital divide. Not all youth are benefiting of the use of digital technologies. And when it comes to technology, traditional technologies, digital technologies, artificial intelligence, this plays also a very important role when it comes to soccer or football and in general playing sports. Then we have to think about another sustainable development goal, that is the Sustainable Development Goal 10, inequalities. Inequalities, social and economic inequalities, but also environmental inequalities. There are many youth who are living in environments that are not necessarily healthy. And when I say environment, I can talk about the family environment, working environment, the school environment, not only climate change. So all of these SDGs are key for the well-being of people and the planet. Sport, and through sport, youth can raise awareness to the rest of the world about these values, and they can also somehow transfer these values to children. As we are sharing our knowledge with youth, youth has to share this knowledge with the children that are the future generations to come. So we all are playing a very important role in promoting the Agenda 2030, its SDGs, and sport is facilitating this because we can have fun when playing sport. And through fun and play, children learn. So besides in our department working on policies and norms with governments in a very harmonized manner with the UN system and other entities, including the Office of the Secretary General Envoy on Youth, we make sure that also to create the space for youth to come to the UN, either through digital means, as we are experimenting now, or in presence by, for instance, coming to the ECOSOC Youth Forum that supports the UN Youth Strategy that we seek, and we seek to ensure, therefore, that there is a unique space for the youth of the world to make their voice heard. And by doing this, we created that kind of important dialogue that teaches how important multilateralism is. Youth from all regions, religions, political systems, values, etc., can join around the table, like the table of King Arthur and its knives, and talk about issues and find common denominators. And sport, if we think of football or soccer, as one wishes to call it, we see how teams are composed by people, young people, coming from different countries, again, different religions, different values, and yet they play together. So in a way, if you wish, football and its teams, if we think of professional football, but also amatorial one, or in general, kids in refugees camps, etc., or at schools, they are composed, these teams, by young people that when it comes to football, they unite, and united they can win, or in any case, they can have fun. So multilateralism is so important also through sport. We in DESA have also an interagency network on youth development at the UNIT that works together with youth of different kinds and different constituencies. We facilitate also evidence-based awareness regarding the realities and needs of young people. We have capacity development projects that are meant to raise awareness and sharing knowledge about the role of youth and sport and the SDGs. I could say much more, but I would like to stop here. But just concluding by saying that all over the world, young people are making a difference. Our amazing young people are making a difference, as we did when we were younger. For youth of today to be here and talk. 30 years ago, when I started working at the UN, there was no program of action on youth. There was no strategy on youth. But we young professionals started talking about that. And here we are 30 years later, finally, having youth, having their voice heard, and it has to be heard even more. So it's now up to them to carry on the baton, if you wish, that we, and the road that we started preparing 30 years ago. So please, together, let's win the game of, and it's not a real game, but of ending extreme poverty. Let's win the race against climate change. Let's conquer injustice. Let's end gender inequality that cannot be achieved without the full participation of youth. And in other words, we need to continue to learn from young people. Young people might wish also to learn something from us. We were young ourselves, and partner all together to amplify their voice and support their actions. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, as it has been mentioned earlier on, the division I lead for the department has been tasked by the Secretary General to prepare the SG report, Secretary General report, and to deal with the mandate on sport for peace and development. So we make ourselves at your disposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniela, for such a good and human message from your division and your department. And it's true what you said. Years ago, we were not talking about these issues, and now they are at the front line of the work and discussion in the United Nations. And so that's what I was saying, that many of the issues that we talk today may constitute the legacy that, because we are in the middle of nothing before, something today, and a better for tomorrow. And that's what instructing or sharing all this knowledge and this expertise with these young leaders is so important, and will form them in a way that they take this responsibility to carry on for the future. So I know we are giving them a big responsibility being part of it, but they are a kind of a transition team. And we have to pass, as you said, the baton, because we have to give something to them to carry on for the future, for the work, for their life, and at the same time to give when the time comes to them to do. So I know you did an amazing report on sport. I know that the two ambassadors are very keen and very proud of your work. And that was lead to that landmark resolution, this General Assembly, which was a very particular General Assembly for all of us in the Secretariat as well as for member states. Thank you, Daniela, for your time. I really appreciate. And now we're going to listen to a message from Jan Jamat, who is the UN Secretary General Boy for Youth. She has been in this role since 1917. Her work is to expand the UN youth engagement and advocacy efforts across the 4 pillars of work: sustainable development, human rights, peace and security, and humanitarian action. And this is show how comprehensive, how cross-cutting the sustainable developments are. And this agenda since 2015, for me, when we discussed it and we approved it, the head of state approved it in the General Assembly, it was for the future. It wasn't for the past. It wasn't for all generations. It was for the generations to come. And so that's why I feel a very big responsibility to carry on, to promote, to speak about it, and to make young leaders, like in this case, to listen to it and to participate. So thank you, Daniela. And can we run Ms. Janjamat, please, Pelayo?
Greetings. My name is Jatma Vikramanayaka, and I am the United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth. I work to bring the United Nations closer to young people and young people closer to the United Nations. The biggest tool I have to do this is Youth 2030, the UN's system-wide youth strategy. My office, together with other UN agencies, funds and programs and UN country offices and young people themselves, are co-leading in bringing this strategy to life. Our common vision is a world in which the human rights of every young person are realized, a world that ensures every young person is empowered to achieve their fullest potential, and a world that recognizes young people's agency, resilience, and their positive contributions as agents of change. The aim of the youth strategy is to scale up global, regional, and national actions to meet young people's needs, realize their rights, and tap into their possibilities as agents of change. This strategy is ambitious. It's guiding the UN system in stepping up support for the empowerment of young people while ensuring that the organization's work fully benefits from their insights and ideas. We have seen some significant progress over the recent years, but we still have a long way to go to ensuring better youth representation and participation across the board. Through this strategy, we have an opportunity to meaningfully integrate youth into the realization of the 2030 Agenda, viewing them not just as beneficiaries, but as key actors who are playing a critical role in contributing to a more sustainable future. Young people are always stepping up to the challenge. I have seen this in my work in conflict-affected areas, in humanitarian settings, and in the most vulnerable communities around the world. Young people take leadership in finding solutions. From protesting on the streets for climate action to acting as first responders and volunteer workers during the COVID-19 pandemic, young people have shown that they are not only the most resilient, but also are the most resourceful in times of crisis. Although progress is being made in many places, overall action to meet the Sustainable Development Goals is not yet advancing at the speed or scale required. 2020 needs to usher in an ambitious decade of action to deliver the SDGs by 2030. The COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on all 17 SDGs has shown that what began as a health crisis has quickly become a human and a socio-economic crisis, threatening to undo important sustainable development progress. Yet, despite being disproportionately affected by COVID-19, young people are coming together to respond to the crisis by demonstrating resilience, resourcefulness, and leadership. Today, the world is home to the largest generation of youth in history. With half of the world's population under 30, they represent the greatest opportunity we have for accelerating development and achieving the SDGs in the decade of action. To achieve the SDGs, we must engage a generation of young people who know about the goals, who care about the goals, and who actively works towards their realization. The world already has the knowledge and the resources to achieve the goals. Young people have the energy, the ingenuity, and ambition to make these goals a reality. With just 10 years to go to achieve the SDGs, I'm calling on all policymakers everywhere to urgently make greater investments in youth, from education to healthcare to training to creating decent jobs. Building the capacities of young people and ensuring they have opportunities to achieve their potential will be critical to delivering the 2030 Agenda. There is no better investment a country can make than in the capacities and potential of its young people. At the same time, I encourage young people around the world to continue to actively engage in these issues and keep holding their governments accountable. For 75 years, the UN has sought to unite stakeholders everywhere to tackle the world's greatest challenges. Now, more than ever, we need all stakeholders to come together to realign behind the mission of the UN and steer our world into a more equitable, more inclusive, and sustainable path. Today's young people recognize this perhaps more than any other generation in history. So, let's give them an opportunity to lead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janjamat, for this inspiring message. And this concludes the first part of our session today. We are going to move now on a kind of an open discussions or conversation with your own leaders. We would like to hear from them what is their visions, what is the goals, how to perceive this program. I kindly, if the Excellencies or Daniela or John have other engagement, we will just say to you today, thank you very much for being with us, for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and your institutional memory. The session was recorded, and it will be available for all the young leaders and for other purposes in the UNITAR website. So Daniela, if in any moment you would like a copy of it, you just log into it, and also the same for the distinguished ambassadors with data for John. So I will now say that if you have other engagement, you are free. As UNITAR, I may say thank you very much. I know what is the life of an ambassador in the United Nations, how busy you are. And I will entertain myself with two other distinguished panelists, Tanya Rosas and Udit Shingal, this conversation with your own leaders and with Generation Amazing. Of course, if you wanted to stay put and if you wanted to follow the conversation, you are more than welcome. Otherwise, thank you very much with the warmest appreciation from UNITAR and Generation Amazing. And for sure, we will continue to work together. We have another session tomorrow with Dr. Jordan Metzel, which is a remarkable physician and very well known. And he has actually a very sound program on health and sport. And we will have also a different kind of speakers. Let's turn out, Pelayo, to the discussions with our distinguished young leader from Generation Amazing. And maybe we'd like to invite Tanya Rosas. She is a Colombian. She founded the Origin Foundation, is an indigenous first model that provides at-risk youth a second chance at education. She works very closely with the literacy gap for indigenous youth. She also launched OLAB, which is a learning app adapted for indigenous students who have the lowest education levels worldwide. With her will be also Udit Singhal, who is based in the United Kingdom. She's attending university and is a founder of a Glass to Sand, an environmental friendly zero wasting ecosystem that addresses the growing menace of glass waste. So Udit Singhal and Tanya, if you are online, could you please, let's go with Tanya first and then Edith.
Actually, Tanya is a little bit delayed, Marco, but Yuri is already here and ready to start his presentation.
Thank you very much, Edith. Thank you very much for being with us, for sharing your experience and your time with us. And I yield to you for your kind presentations on the glass to sand and this ecosystem environment, glass waste management that you propose as a young leader. I yield to you, Edith.
Thank you very much for the introduction and a very good afternoon from London. I look forward to today addressing the gathering to share insights about my initiative Glass to Sand, how it is dealing with an urban crisis, and emphasize the importance of youth involvement in achieving the SDGs. The youth envoy just said this, and she emphasized how important it is for the youth to be part of the SDGs and to take the baton from there. And this is what I hope to share today. As unfortunately is the case, pollutants are an unseen enemy that have threatened life on our planet, and this is the time more than ever for us to act, and standing by idly at this point can have very disastrous consequences. Delhi, unfortunately, is battling a growing glass waste crisis. Glass, despite being reusable and recyclable, is not segregated anymore and actively goes for dumping with all other solid waste into already scarce landfill space, where it won't decompose for 1 million years. Growing landfills are eroding green cover and causing great harm to the environment. An awareness around this problem of glass waste has been created, of course, so that it can be nipped in the bud, and we don't want it to assume gigantic proportions. When I was 16 years old, I founded Glass to Sand, an environmentally friendly zero waste ecosystem that stops glass bottles from being dumped into the landfills. And this is to control the menace posed by the growing glass waste crisis. Despite the obstacles that we face, I, as a student trying to drive change, isn't always looked at very seriously. But despite all the obstacles that I faced as a school student trying to drive change, Glass to Sand today has already managed to stop around 10,000 glass bottles from entering the landfill, crushing them into 6,000 kilograms of high-grade silica sand. And as a lot of you would know, this September, the United Nations, I was very delighted and honored to be part of this, but the United Nations selected me as one of only 17 young leaders for the Sustainable Development Goals 2020 from around the world. This 2-year appointment recognizes my contribution to SDG 11, particularly sustainable cities and communities, and my work through Glass to Sand. Well, when I started and when this all began as a 16-year-old, I didn't believe that I could change anything or leave behind a lasting impact. And this initiative for me was only a modest attempt to make a difference to my immediate community. but with honest intent and with the intent to start and make a difference to my immediate community, I was able to present a new perspective to the world. I learned, and this is something that is very relevant for the youth today. I learned that you can't just wait for something to happen, and that you have to take a proactive stance to make that difference. Because unless you're Newton, it's unlikely that an apple is going to fall on your head. Opportunities don't really magically appear, and you have to lead them your way. Mr. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General with whom I spoke a few weeks ago, told me in his meeting that we need to drive ingenuity and full involvement of young people to achieve the global goals. And this is, in fact, the message that I am trying to drive forward. And young people listening in today, who are already equipped with the tools to be able to drive the lasting change, need to take this lead and need to be part of this change, because the young people are the future, and they are the drivers of change. Thank you very much for listening in. I want to make this session very interactive, so please feel free to ask any questions, and we can talk more about my work and how the youth can actively get involved and be part of the change that the SDGs are trying to bring about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edith. I'm very amazed that, and I wanted to congratulate you, because this selection for the United Nations for has a young leader to be part of this program of the United Nations. So I am very happy to hear that, and thanks for sharing your experience. Please stay with us while we listen Tanya about her experience and her work with the indigenous people and young students. And then we will engage in a conversation with your young leaders of Generation Amazing from Qatar. Tanya, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for being with us. I am from Honduras. We are the Latin friends, Latin sister and brother. So welcome. Could you please share with us your experience and your work with the indigenous people and the young people in these communities?
Thank you so much for this invitation. Gracias, Marco. It was a great introduction. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. Well, I'm Tania Rosas. I'm the co-founder of Fundación El Origen and OLAP app. And we work to distribute our app that works offline and in indigenous languages for indigenous learners across the global south to engage with education programs, also just empower themselves to be the change that they want to see in their own communities through education. So we have been working since 2015, providing this app for many communities and rural schools who don't have access to digital education and access to many other courses. Due to COVID-19, it is also helping many rural schools to keep their education progress with the students who, due to lack of connectivity or languages barriers, couldn't actually access to any other education platform. So OLAP right now is an education provider for many schools, many indigenous communities and also rural communities who, due to lack of access to connectivity, have been left behind. So we are focusing on not leaving anyone behind, because we all deserve to be part of this movement, of this sustainable development movement. So we are very focused on empowering youth from rural areas across the global south. It has been really, I can say, yeah, it has been really exciting, all this journey. I come from the indigenous region of Colombia, which is called La Guajira. And there, the only 29 out of 100 youth actually finish high school, which is a huge gap of indigenous youth who just drop out of school when they turn 16 years old. So then when I turned 16 years old, I got a scholarship to study political science and educational research. And then I decided to create a Fundación El Origen to help all of them to access to the same opportunities that I had. So now being a young leader for the SDGs, recognized by the United Nations, as you did mention it, too, I feel empowered to bring these opportunities to many other youth across the global south who have the same challenge that I had to access to a better opportunity, to a better life through education. So that's just my goal, my mission in my life since I was very young, and I'm committed to that because I believe that sustainable development can't be possible if we don't empower youth. Yeah, that's it. That's me.
Thank you very much, Tanya. For all of you, for Udit and for Tanya, I guess, I don't know if you met each other before, but at least you can see your faces and you can interact yourself today, and you can share your own experiences among yourself. I would like to invite our participants from Generous Amazing, if they would like to say a few words, or if you have any question to make, please do so. As Udit said, one of the most important things is that we talk about this topic and these issues, and you put a question. They has been selected to participate with us because of their age, because their achievements, which are amazing, and also because of the human touch that they have on the projects they decided to deliver. So either you can use the chat button, or you can just raise your voice and make questions or comments. That will be highly appreciated. Anyone who would like to volunteer for a few words or comments? Do we have anything in the chat button, Pelayo?
We do not have any comments yet, but once again, as Ambassador also said, please feel free to share or unmute yourselves if you want to share any comments or questions.
I see Adam is trying to connect it to the audio. I don't know if there is any problem with it. No. All right. I will have a question for both of you, and you can tell me if this is pertinent. What is your outreach of the that you in your different programs has had from young students or participants? How do you see the participations of the community, the young people in your communities, universities, or how much outreach do you have, and how the reactions to your projects? Let's go to Udit first, and then to you, Tanya.
That's a great question, and my work and my aim and work alongside encouraging the community to embrace this better civic sense to create sustainable living spaces. My work as a UN Young Leader for the SDGs is to galvanize the youth around the world towards the SDGs by driving awareness, emphasizing the need to act, and facilitating engagement at a young age. And so thus far, I have been speaking at high schools and targeting specifically school students, university students, and even young professionals to use my work as a testimony that young people can drive change, and that young people have the ability to drive change. And the message that I have been trying to drive for a very long time is that sustainability isn't a lofty concept that only a select few have access to. But with my example, I have hopefully made clear and made abundantly clear that sustainability can be taken by anyone in any sector of the world and in any sector of industry that they work into. They don't necessarily have to study sustainability to know about it and to be involved. And that's why the SDGs are such a beautiful combination of all the challenges the world faces and proposing and a key area for us to propose solutions to combat these challenges. So that's what my work has been so far, and I look forward to in the near future again interacting with a lot more people to drive this awareness forward.
Thank you, Udit, for that. It's amazing that you are already going to this kind of conference to schools, students, and to your relying your message on this environmental important topic. Later on, I would like you to reflect a little bit on the information technology aspect and what do you expect for your appointment or for your selection in the United Nations. But Tanya, if you can tell us a little bit about the outreach that you have, because your target audience is more oriented to indigenous communities and knowing and being from Latin America are not, sometimes it's a very sensitive issue. And if you also can elaborate a little bit, because you develop an app, how these information technology tools facilitate your work. I'll appreciate that for the young participants to see how much they can benefit it for these new technologies also.
Okay, so well, before we were working on in-person trainings, working with many rural schools to improve the quality of education and the retention rates in those schools. And since we launched the app, we launched actually officially the app for this year. For many other rural schools, we were only focusing on some rural schools in the region where I come from, but we launched this app due to COVID-19 to be used by other rural schools by themselves. We are expecting to reach more than 10,000 students who, due to COVID-19, dropped out of school. And then since we have been talking with many other organizations, UN organizations and community-based organizations and rural schools across the global south, we are expecting to reach more than 50,000 students from different rural schools across the global south by the end of 2021. And then, yeah, definitely using technology help us to increase our reach, and also empower many other youth who do it to access problems from their communities. We couldn't get into them. So since we launched the app to other rural schools, they have been able to follow up with all the content created by their own school, by other universities, other institutions that we have already in the app. And we are also working with the UN agencies to digitalize some SDGs content for them to be empowered from their communities, because some of them didn't even know about SDGs or the global goals in general. So we are putting many other content in the app so that they can have access to all those information, just become young leaders for the SDGs from their own communities. So that's the power of technology for us.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Udit, I yield to you for your comments on the information technology that I mentioned to you and your expectation for your appointment with this role with the United Nations for the next 2 years, and how we will facilitate your work.
Well, that's again a very interesting way to look at the world today, and we are in the midst of the world where technology is the main driver, and technology is transforming the way things happen in the world today. It is very encouraging that I have been able to use technology in my work and facilitate it to create a collection volunteer system, and indeed grow awareness of the SDGs through my appointment as well. To talk about what I expect as a long-term impact at the end of my term is that the young impressionable minds, I hope, will be encouraged to think more cautiously and embrace sustainability in their actions. And this will be something that will be able to catalyze the achievement of the SDGs. And besides that, I hope that the menace posed by the increasing glass waste crisis is minimized through a greater involvement of agencies at multiple levels. And my aim really is to foster a collaborative spirit among stakeholders, among the young generation, among the old generation, and literally at all stratas of society, to drive home the message that these goals are achievable with teamwork. I advocate for creative synergies, and I have been, because I understand the power that teamwork and collaboration can have on the achievement of such global goals like the SDGs.
Sorry, Marco, we are currently cannot hear you. If you can unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, it's my bad. I was on mute. I did it. I'm sorry. A general question for all of you is come from Maha, from our young leaders participating. The question is, what is the biggest challenge you faced while you were planning your project? Tanya, could you reflect on that?
Well, I guess for any entrepreneur, budget is the main challenge. So we have been developing solutions like technological solutions for many NGOs, and we work with institutions to make it cheaper and also accessible for many other rural schools. Since we don't ask for any cost to the schools or students, we have to reach other institutions or other founders to provide the funds that we need to provide this technology for many rural schools. So I guess the budget is the most important challenge that any entrepreneur has to face. Since we have been working with the communities to create these solutions, like all the designs, we took around 5 years to create this app, because we were working and asking many questions to the communities so that we can make sure that they can feel comfortable with, and they can feel also participating on this process. So because of that, I can say that I have been lucky to present a solution that is highly scalable and that can be used for them, by them. And then I think that's a huge important problem that many entrepreneurs face at the beginning when they create a solution that was made by themselves, not by the community that is involved in that. So I think, yeah, I faced that challenge working with the community, because I had like, this was my university thesis. I created the app in my mind where I was working my thesis, and then I was imagining something different. So it took us a long time, like making this very accessible for them, very understandable, very useful for them. So I guess, yes, working with the community can help you to create integral solutions that can be highly scalable and that can be used for other communities if you are looking for that.
Oh, thank you very much. And yes, starting from scratch with an idea and to develop and to make it fully operational, yes, it's a big challenge, in particular when there are considerations for financial resources to do that. If that help you out in any way, UNITAR can support you and can do anything to promote or to has said voice your work. Please let us know. Come with us. I'll be very honored and pleased to support your initiatives in Colombia and around the world. Udi, what was your first big challenge when you were working on your project? because environmental issue has a lot of a lot of enemies also. It's not just difficult to deal with it, it's also have enemies already granted. Just tell us about your experience and your challenges.
That's true. And what Tanya said about her challenges are very true about entrepreneurial work across the world. But while I managed to, in my case, while I managed to take the leap to start my initiative, I noticed, as I said in my presentation earlier as well, that a school student trying to drive change isn't always taken seriously. And in that sense, roadblocks appeared at every step of the way. And the journey that I had, not just because of the red tape that was involved, and it was for me convincing organization and convincing the people that such a challenge was being faced, was another challenge that I embarked on, and I did find when I was convincing institutions to come aboard and understand the need to be environmentally sustainable, is that some firms do end up just blowing the environmental trumpet for their image, and it does become an addition to their brand image. But when the time for reckoning comes, they are unfortunately unwilling to give the tiny revenues that they would make by being unsustainable. So, you know, it's just a lot of the challenges that you face across the way. But you have to, as I said, even though roadblocks follow through the journey, you have to believe in yourself and not lose focus of the end goal to be able to drive change effectively. So I was grateful that despite the challenges that I faced, I did manage to make Glass to Sand into an effective institution, which is indeed today driving effective change in the world.
Thank you. That's very important. Got a message. Mr. Ali Fakhru would like to share something with us. Ali, are you online? Do you listen to us?
Yeah. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Hi. I'm Ali Fakhru, and I just want to say that it's a pleasure for me, and I speak for all of the youth advocates, to be here and to be able to have this experience and this workshop. But since we have everyone speaking on what they do and why their role is important, I just want to bring up our role as a youth advocate and basically we want to and why it's important. So I think for us as youth advocates, it's really important for us to advocate for against all the different global issues and fight for change. And as youth advocates, we have to really be resilient and we have to really be resilient, and we have to be strong as youth leaders, because us as youth advocates, we are trying to we have to show to people that we can be role models, and we are able to fight for issues. We aren't, it's not really an easy task because there's so much that comes into being a youth advocate, but it's also a really, really important and it's a really important opportunity for us to be able to share about how we can fight these issues, and we can also propose solutions. We could also just propose for solutions that already are there. And honestly, it's just an overall a very, very great opportunity for all of us. And I think that we are all grateful to be able to be the youth advocates that we are. And honestly, yeah, that's really it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. That's a very important point that you raised, because it's true, and that's Tanya's example, and also Udit, is that it's not easy. It's difficult and entail a lot of responsibility from your part. The most important message that you have to take it out of this session today, after listening high official from the secretary and two ambassadors and their commitment on these issues, is that you are not alone. You are being supported, and Generation Amazing as an organization, for example, is with you. And we are in a position and willing situation that provide the most support we can. And on the other hand, as you can see, you have Udit and Tanya, they are your own age, they have your own ambition, they have their own challenges, and still they prevail. They fought for what they believe it was a good thing and a good cause. So as you mentioned, these very important words, that they have to be resilient, you have to stay there, you have to continue to hammer what you believe. It has to be a hammer to succeed. On that side, and on the other side is that when you do that, please don't feel alone, because you have an amazing government, you have an amazing authorities, and you have an amazing organization, Generation Amazing on your side, but you will also have the United Nations in any kind of support we can do. You see, by coincidence, I was listening on the question about the challenges that was put by Maha, and you see what Tanya said and what Udit said, and our commitment is that, as I mentioned, without even she asking, can you support us? Can you know? I offer, because this is our work. This is what we are here to do. So Udit, for example, was elected already for a UN agency to be a kind of ambassador or voice and face for the United Nations on this particular issue. So all of you that are linked to us in this program, you will have also that support as an organization, as an individual. So please, Ali, continue to work hard, encourage your fellow young leaders, your group, because we are going to be with you. You are not alone. That's the most important thing that I wanted to mention. Hello, Maha. Happy to see you. There is one more comment, and it's for a dear friend, Salman. And this is for Udit and for Tanya. And it's related to, do you think that the pandemic in a way made it easier for you to spread your message or reach out to a bigger crowd? Because as actually Tanya mentioned, he says is right now she has been working with a limited number of schools, and a follow-up do not believe that she online switch will make a positive impact as the pandemic passes. So it's related to the IT and information technology tools. Do you think that now that we are on this situation with the pandemic, information technology has helped you out to reach out more or less? And do you think that when the pandemic passes, this will be better or worse in your cases? I don't know if, Salman, if I interpreted your message and your question, otherwise you are free to talk.
Yeah,
Please,
that is exactly what I asked for. Yeah, sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Salman Al-Khouri, youth advocate. So please.
Tanya, let's go with you first.
So I can't say that the pandemic, it is hard to say that, because there have been many people destroyed by this. So, but yes, of course, this online switch have helped me to reach more bigger audience, to reach, for example, youth organizations across the world that wants to bring this technology to their own communities. I couldn't do that by myself. Also to reach many rural schools across the world. I'm just thinking outside of my box, because I was only thinking Colombia and Latam. And now, due to this switch, many other organizations are willing to talk with other solutions across the world, and to just globalize these the solutions that everyone has in their own country. So yes, of course, the online switch have make me think outside and to connect with other youth organizations across the world. And then, but the pandemic have been brought many, many poverty and many that, like for example, in Colombia, there are 100,000 kids who dropped out of school due to the pandemic. So it has been a cause to pull all of this together and to provide this as faster as we can. So it could be maybe easier in a normal situation to just grow easily and smoothly. But now we think, and we have to push ourselves to make it like accessible as faster as we can. So there are many cons and pros, but the online switch have been really helpful. Yeah, totally.
Thank you, Tanya. Udit?
Well, I'd like to focus on two important things that I grasped from the discussion so far. One that Ali had about the need for resilience, which I will get to later. But just to answer Salman's question, I think with the pandemic, while we lost connection with the world physically, and everyone moved online, I think we became more connected than ever before with technology. And that's why the pandemic fastened and just escalated the way technology was changing the world. We came 5 years ahead of our times. And now, as I said earlier as well, and as the discussion was going on earlier, the need to leverage technology has become more important than any other time before, because of everything, almost all tasks being conducted online. And that's really essentially the message that needs to be driven, is that the need to be technology friendly at this point is of importance. And you can use technology to overcome the cons of the pandemic, and raise the bar forward. If this were normal times, we would have met in person, but the pandemic and everything going online, it's far easier to attend meetings all across the globe and be able to drive the message forward at a faster pace. So technology has had its advantages in the midst of this COVID pandemic.
Thank you, Udit, for that. I think Maha wanted to make a question also. Maha, you are welcome.
Hi, everyone. And I just want to say your projects are really amazing and really inspiring. And it's amazing to be part of this global movement toward achieving the 17 SDGs. And the Generation Amazing, we took a lot of workshop about different topics like football for development and development for football, and all of them, to see how we can use the 17 SDGs to be to football, to use them in football to achieve the 17 SDGs is amazing. And, all of us here, the youth advocates, we have a goal that we want to achieve from this Generation Amazing program, or from this program, our Generation Amazing journey. Everyone has a goal that they want to achieve, either it's like in football or in the society issue that they want to maybe they want to see like a solution for it in the societies. And it's amazing how we can use the power of football to make a positive impact in our societies. And that's what Generation Amazing is all about, is using a football as a tool to make a positive impact in our society. So thank you for inspiring us and for these amazing programs and projects that you have done. That's all.
Thank you, Maha. I will make your comments the closing remarks of this session today, because they are very inspiring, because you are very, very right on what you said about the Tanya and Udit inspiring not only you as participants, as young leader, but also us, because we will try to make the best for all of you, and as I said, to support and to give you the knowledge and the strength to continue And so the offer of supporting is there, is on the table. Use it whenever you consider is necessary. But we will be very honored and very happy to do so. So we go to the end of our session today. For our distinguished participants, tomorrow we have a very amazing program. As I mentioned to you, we will discuss about the role of youth in sport and health. We have an amazing doctor, Jordan Metzel, and she will be talking to us in two sessions. We also, Mr. Richard Lewitt, which is the representative of International Federation of the Red Cross and the Red Crescent Societies. We'll use the same link. We are at the same time zone. The UNITAR website has recorded this session if you wanted to replay it and review the messages of the two ambassadors this morning, or Daniela Bass, or Mr. The legends of the football, soccer, John, so you can listen again what he says. Please join us tomorrow at the same time. I'll be with you, and hope you enjoyed this session today. Whatever comment or suggestions you may have for tomorrow, just use the email of Mr. Pelayo Alvarez or Mr. Amy Zhao or Ali Otis, is UNITAR support team. You can send to them any kind of question or comments or support you may need, or documentation, and you will receive it by tomorrow electronically. So please reach out and be safe, which is one of the most important things in today's world. And I'm very proud and very honored to meet all of you in this format. And hopefully you enjoyed these sessions today. And I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye now from UNITAR, and thank you for being with us and for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.